there, this is the first of 3 videos about the basic bow stroke. I call this a 3-part bow stroke. Our eventual goal is to take really controlled, beautiful, even long bows. But I'm going to split this up into 3 videos because there's 3 parts of the bow that I want to work on. So the first thing that I ask often when teaching this is, what does your wrist do when you pull the bow? There's a very specific reason why I'm asking that, because most people will say, well, you know, your wrist is a hinge and you pull your bow back and forth and your wrist has flexibility and it goes like this. Well, that is actually not accurate, because if I don't use my arm and I only use my wrist, you will see that this is not straight at all. And in fact, it's going against what we want to be happening. So that when we use our wrist, I don't even actually really know which direction to do that because I don't use my wrist. When we try to use our wrist as we change bows, it actually throws our bow angle off. So we're going to kind of unlearn all the things like no fingers, no wrist, no motion at all, except this very basic bow stroke. And this is going to be something that is going to eventually help build a better sound for you, more control with the bow. So the basic thing that you're going to do is you're going to use short bows, at the most a third of a bow, maybe even a quarter of the bow. You can start on the G string. I'm getting my hand well balanced. I like to put my thumb slightly bent, touching up against the black part of the frog. It's kind of leaning on the stick in between the grip and the frog. So my hand is balanced. I have not weight exactly, but a balance hold between my first finger and my pinky, and I'm not leaning over on the bow. In fact, you'll notice that my elbow is down. So my elbow's down to give weight through my arm into the string. And in fact, the weight is coming all the way from up here, because I'm not going to be using any of these pieces of my arm, any of these 2 places where it joints. I'm going to be using my shoulder socket. So I'm going to pull my arm now. I get my bow a little bit tilted so that I'm on the inner side of the hair, and I'm just going to pull the bow back and forth. Really hard to do that without moving any other bits. The rest of your body wants to help, the rest of your arm wants to help. So my first challenge to you is, can you do that on all the different strings, just basically over and over again? I'm not looking at myself on a screen right now. I'm looking into a camera, so I can't see my own bow. I'm hoping that this is straight. That I am being careful about where the angle of the bow is. I'm trying to keep the bow straight in relation to the bridge, and that's something that you can see in a mirror or on a zoom window or in a camera if you wish, to look at yourself so that you can see that your bow is going straight. It makes a very raw sound. You'll notice that's not a really beautiful sound because I'm not filtering it at all. I'm not affecting it in any way. That's the sound of my arm sitting on the string. I'm using what I would call a whole arm, meaning that I'm not doing any jointing. I'm pulling everything by moving the shoulder joint back and forth. One way you can think of it is you can almost think of it as if it's your elbow going back and forth, because it kind of is. If I try to get my elbow going back and forth. The other thing that you'll notice is my focus point is roughly below the center. So if I think about from the bridge to the fingerboard, we usually play around in the center. I'm a little bit below that because I've got a slow enough bow and enough weight on the string that I can really get into that focus zone on the cello. So the goal is not to make a beautiful sound. The goal is to make a sound that is like a mezzo forte heavy sound. It should sound and feel heavy. I am trying to do smooth bow, so I'm trying not to stop my bow, although because of this sort of dump of weight on the string, sometimes it does kind of go as I'm changing strings, and that's okay because I'm putting a lot of weight down onto the string. I don't really need to write out a lot of exercises about this, although I did put one down below that just goes across all the strings. A great way to practice this is to just do a scale, 4 bows per note. Etc. And I'm making a pretty big sound here. It's a solid mezzo forte sound, and I'm literally I feel like I'm barely working. I'm trying to keep everything very relaxed. I'm trying to keep my fingers very relaxed. You might occasionally check in with your right hand to make sure it's not grabbing on, that your thumb is staying as relaxed as possible, and that things are dropping. So another thing you'll want to do is you'll want to practice that drop. So if you take a breath in, raise your shoulders, breathe out and drop, and you can feel everything kind of, all your weight dumps down into your hand. You can do that again before you start. Trying to drop the weight down onto the string. Okay, so that's the first part of your bow stroke. Happy practicing.